Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Colorado. And if you're listening outside of Colorado, man, I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is Josh, co-owner and president of K4CO Radio. And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful here in Colorado. I don't know about you, but I love me some rain. And yesterday was just absolutely amazing. We have some special guests in the studio today once our producer gives me the thumbs up. And we are good to go. So in the studio right now, we have members of a wonderful organization. It's called Above and Beyond Senior Living. And we are joined here with Corey Strock, who is an assisted living administrator and certified dementia trainer. How's it going, Corey?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Good,
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We also have Michelle Strock. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. You are a nurse, assisted living administrator, and certified dementia trainer as well.
Correct. Yes.
And we are joined with Diana Moorfield, who is the chair of Adams County Aging Network.
Hi.
Hi. How are you? Eden certified practitioner and former sales and marketing for assisted living communities. So thank you all for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Likewise.
I remember, talking, we talked, Corey, over kind of what you guys did, and I found it just absolutely awesome, mainly because what you do is at no cost to the person that you're helping out, which is great. So give us a little bit of what you do with Above and Beyond.
Yeah. So, essentially we help families and seniors find homes in various communities here in Colorado. So whether that be your assisted living, your independent, memory care, so on and so forth. As you mentioned, that is a no cost service to them. So we kind of find those communities, and those communities will actually pay for the service. So it's no cost to our families, no cost to our seniors. And then recently we folded in the dementia certification. So that's a nationally recognized certification that you get, basically just improving your skills in dementia care and things like that, best practices and all that good stuff. So,
and how long have you been kind of working with assisted living, senior living?
Me, I'm going on a little over a decade now, and I know these guys also have made careers out of senior living. So we always say we have a combined 75 years experience, over 75 years. So tons of knowledge there when it comes to senior
living. It's a lot of experience, exactly. Michelle, what got you into this line of work?
Into senior living specifically, or into placement?
Let's start with senior living, actually.
Okay. Senior living, I actually started, I'm going to age myself right here, but I actually started straight out of high school. So started at 18 years old, worked for the state of Colorado in a community back then was for adults with special needs, all became wards of the state. So worked there for a few years, got young and dumb, moved to California. That is actually where I started, got my CNA as a certified nurse assistant out in California, and then just kind of started bridging, came back home when I realized I didn't know everything, came back home and then furthered my education at that point. So I think what got me into the industry was my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up. So that just kind of seeing, the needs and the population, and I just kind of was raised as an old soul.
And what then got you into placement?
Placement, COVID kind of had a little bit of a role to play with that, just knowing some of the things that happened within the communities, the forced vaccinations, the stopping the family members from being with their loved ones. Being a nurse, being put into an authoritative role really made me kind of rethink long-term what my goals were going to be. And then also kind of seeing how the industry was forming and what placement agents offered. We got to work with some that did it absolutely amazing, and we got to work with some that needed some improvements. So we took all of those entities and decided how to, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, this is what the communities need. Having that community background really helps us in understanding, like I may go to a car lot and I may want the Lamborghini, but my funds are this and my driving skills are this. So, you know, how do I make that work within my needs when I still want to drive that Lamborghini? So, having the community side of things along with the personal side of things has really helped us mold that.
And so you guys really tailor it to the person
Yes.
specifically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, it's a requirement for us is we will meet with our individual prospects along with their entire family. If there's 15 of them, we want all 15 of them because that's who makes that person. So if there's
Gotcha.
2, we want 2. It just, you know, everybody's dynamics are a little bit different nowadays.
Right. Gotcha. Diana, you are chair of Adams County Aging Network. What is that?
So it has been around for about 30 years. We're an organization that helps seniors get resources. Most of them are free if, you know, they're lonely and they need to have some activities. If they have a loved one who's got dementia, where can they go to get assistance from the state or from the county? We also have a monthly meeting every first Wednesday of the month. We had one today. And we have a presentation from an organization that's a member, anyone who's involved in senior services. So today, for instance, we had an organization come in that provides all kinds of care for caregivers and their loved ones who have been diagnosed with dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's or frontal lobe or Lewy body or what's that other one? I just can't think of the name now. It's
Because you got dementia. No?
yes.
No, there's
And I
many
learned-
types
There's
of
a lot.
dementia.
Yeah. So there's many types, but dementia is like the umbrella name for all of these different types, and they all have different symptoms, things like that. So she really did a fine job educating us on the services that they provide, even counseling. They have social workers, doctors, therapists, and it's for Colorado, not only Adams County.
So all over Colorado.
Yes, yes. And this Monday, we are sponsoring our Senior Resource Fair. It's free for attendees. All the seniors, people can come. There'll be about over 50 exhibitors. Those are people who are involved in senior services. Above and Beyond Senior Living will be there. And it's just a great event for people to find out, you know, all kinds of assistance and answer questions and just for all kinds of services related to seniors and families. And we do that twice a year.
Twice a
it'll
year,
be,
okay.
Yeah, so it'll be May 12th, Monday from 9 till 12. It'll be at the Human Services Building on Pecos and 120th. And I'm not sure if it's Westminster.
That's
The Westminster Human Services Building. So it's free. So anyone can come and join us, and there'll be refreshments there, and you meet all kinds of wonderful people. You know, we're in the people business. We don't sell widgets. We don't, you know, dress up widgets or whatever. So I think in the senior living arena, you'll find the nicest people who are really led by their heart. You know, so it's a great group.
And how long has Above and Beyond Senior Living been established?
2 years, a little over 2 years now.
Okay. I did want to ask, what really makes you stand out with competitors? Because there's got to be quite a few people doing similar things. So what really makes Above and Beyond stand out?
I think our comprehensive assessment is something that really sets us apart from others. So, comprehensive assessments became to be something kind of a hot item for the State Department in Colorado, where they're wanting more detailed information from these, whether it's a group home or a full community. They're wanting their staff to know the person as a whole. So comprehensive assessments have became really, really big. And with our background, we're able to give the communities those pieces. So when we vet those folks in, they know as much information as we know, which is going to put them up at a greater success. Because the last thing we want to do is keep moving these folks back and forth. Nope, this community didn't fit your needs. Let's try this community. So we do really, really well on that comprehensive assessment piece. Plus, we're helping the industry by educating the other placement agents here in Colorado. We have Corey can speak to the dementia class that we have coming up that's actually primarily placement agents. So just working with those other placement agencies to give them the knowledge and give back a little bit of what our knowledge base is when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's, because that is one of the leading causes of placement right now.
Dementia is.
Yep, sure
Okay.
is.
I did
Yeah,
not know that.
even on the news this morning, there was another house fire from an elderly couple that, may or may not have been safe within their home. So COVID really made us all stay at home, and for everybody, that's not the right thing to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of dementia then being the leading cause, so tell us a little bit about this kind of training that you guys have.
Yeah. So it's a nationally recognized certification. So the company is the National Council of Dementia Practitioners. And essentially, it's an 8-hour course. And what that gets you is the further education, not only into kind of what the disease process looks like, but also, techniques on how to go about it. A lot of people, outside of the healthcare industry that have never dealt with it, I run into them a lot, and it's like a parent or a grandparent or something, and they're kind of learning this as they go, in the moment with them. And there's good techniques and there's bad techniques, really. So, like for instance, I've seen a lot of people looking for maybe their mother, that passed away 50 years ago or whatever. But when you have that disease, your brain kind of deteriorates to the point where, you are back in childhood, essentially, in your mind. So you are looking for your mom, you are looking for your husband or whoever, and I've seen people that are like, Paul died 30 years ago. What are you talking about? And then, that's not necessarily going to get you anywhere. So it's, we kind of teach techniques on like, hey, let's redirect, and let's say, oh, Paul's at work, do you know what he does? And how long has he done that? And you kind of just keep that conversation going. And eventually, it just passes, right? It's like, this too shall pass. And especially with the dementia, a person suffering with dementia, it'll pass rapidly. So, but if you get them in that emotional state and now they're upset because, their mom is no longer alive, then they're going to remember that emotional state a lot more than they even remember the initial conversation. So, essentially, like I said, it's just trying to wrap all that up and, gives you some better options on how to deal with the disease and the process. Unfortunately, it's not one that, is going to improve. It is a degenerative disease, unfortunately. So, there's interesting studies and things that have come out where you can actually detect it 40, 50 years in advance at this point. And, there's different things like I'm a big advocate on like lion's mane is a really good, it's a mushroom, but you can get like powder versions. That's what I take. And it really helps with just cognition and overall brain, composition and making sure you age your brain healthy. So unfortunately for us, there's a lot of contaminants in our food that kind of play against that,
I've heard about that. A lot of sugars, I've heard a lot.
Alcohol, alcohol probably being one of, if not the biggest, thing that they're finding. So sugars though, definitely, and heavy metals, that we don't even know is in our food. And yet, we're consuming it. So,
Right.
And some other medications that the side effects are they could promote early onset dementia. I mean, studies are coming out every day, about that.
I absolutely love I'm a big game show person. I love Family Feud, but I love on the Game Show Network, it's all medicines and it's all the whole list of side effects is just insane. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Corey Strock, Michelle Strock, and Diana Moorfield, and this is Above and Beyond Senior Living for Senior Placements. And if you are listening on the radio, do know that you can switch over to one of our social media platforms. And if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the comments section, and our producer will alert those to me. So I go to you. I have an elderly person in my family that is starting to experience issues where I cannot do it myself. And so walk us through kind of how you identify these communities for your clients.
Yeah, and it's individualized. When we go out and we meet with these people, it's kind of like, where do you want to live? What's your area? What's your budget? That sort of thing. And, what are you looking for? Some people, they want a swimming pool that they're probably never going to use. Some people just want good care. Some people want meals. It's some people, a lot of people, when you get into that age range, they just want some companionship. They just want somebody to, be there and know that, they can get assistance if needed, even if they don't need it. So it's kind of, again, based on by the person and what they need and their location, how much they can afford per month, because, these communities, they do charge their rent, and then plus you'll have your level of care. And so it's the benefit to using a service like ours would be, if you don't know any of this information going into it, you can go into a community and say, oh, our rent's, $2,000 a month. That's not bad. And then you all of a sudden are a level 4 care, and your rent's now $6,000 a month or whatever that looks like, just, throwing numbers. But kind of just having that expertise and somebody who can advocate on your behalf. A lot of these communities charge a community fee. So that's $2,500 typically, $1,000 that you're just upfront cost that, if you have no experience in doing this, you're not going to know,
Right.
that you need like $5,000 to move in or whatever. And, we can help advocate on, our client's behalf, maybe waiving that fee, getting it taken down, or just, if not, at least letting hey, these are some of the things that you're going to need to consider going into this.
But no matter what, all the research, all the expertise, everything that they get from you guys is of no charge.
That's correct.
To the families and the people that are being placed, which is great. I think that's wonderful. Who came up with the name Above and Beyond? Yeah.
We all did.
You all did. All right. Well, Diana, why did you come up with it? How did you come up with that name?
Well, we knew what kind of added services and improvements we could offer to our clients. And we figured, putting all of us together, we all complement each other. As you know, Michelle is a nurse, and Corey's been an administrator for both assisted living and a memory care secure facility. My background is I've worked in every single level of senior living, from rehabilitation center to long-term care skilled nursing to assisted living, memory care, and also starting with independent living. So, and I've been always on the admission side. So I bring my expertise in that piece, and I have found that the first thing we usually do when we may start out with a phone conversation is really to educate the family or the client about options, different care levels. And then that's why the assessment piece is so important when we go and visit with the family and the potential client, is that assessment will really tell us Are they assisted living? Are they memory care? Are they independent living but just need meals? You know, everyone's different.
All of these communities supply different services.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we need to find out what the needs are for that particular client and what the long-term goals are. And so it really is based on personality. You know, someone might want a place that's got bells and whistles, whereas someone else just wants a little homey kind of place where it's kind of like a family. So we want to meet all of those needs so that whoever that individual moves into, hopefully they'll stay there and they won't have to move again because their care needs have become so acute. Sometimes you can't help that. If somebody has had a catastrophic occurrence in their health, then, you know, you might have to make that decision to move them because the place they're in won't be able to meet their needs there.
Right.
So that's an ongoing conversation that we have. So getting back to above and beyond, I feel like we really are the best. We're about quality. We don't care if it takes, 3 months, 6 months to find the right place for an individual. We do have others whose family has moved them into a community. They did it themselves, not realizing that that community was not a good fit for their loved ones. And then they call us and say, I need help. We made a big mistake. Please help us. And we've had a few of those, more so than just people just calling us saying, what do you do? How do I find out? So, yeah, I feel like that's most, we have a lot of gifts that we can share with our clients to do the right thing for them.
Well, and that's why having a organization like you guys that know all the research, know where to look so that they are placed in the right spot. And I still love that it's completely free of charge for people to just call you up, talk to you about what's going on. And speaking of that, Michelle, what are like some of the key concerns people can look for when helping to decide if it's even time for senior living?
Really depends on where they're at with their aging processes. So, we have some folks, independent living's really been a hot ticket item lately where they come and, their significant other passed away a year ago and they're noticing mom's just not thriving real like they would like to see her. She's isolating at home, not getting out. So those folks need that companionship. So getting a very well-versed program for activities and being with their peers, they open up a little bit, and then longevity happens with that too. And then, some of it is, if they're at a point, there's been folks that we've gone out to their homes and they're hiding behind hot water heaters. That's a safety concern. So we respond very quickly to those. Some of them we get out there and, one of the questions that we often ask is we're meeting and they're on the fence, and during that assessment process, we can see some very concerning needs that need to be addressed. And one of the things that we'll ask all this, and it's a very defining question, is in the event of a fire, what is your loved one going to do?
Right.
Are they going to call 911? Are they going to call you? Are they going to panic? Because if they're not going to call 911, they're at risk.
Well,
There's
exactly.
your answer.
Exactly. I remember when my father, I was in a movie theater, called me about 4 times and was like, all right, fine, go out. And he's like, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm like, 911, Dad.
Yeah.
Like, you have to call like the right people. What am I going to do right here?
Yeah.
So I just rushed over for that. But, I want to get back to a little bit of that, but what are some of, I want to ask, just because you guys all got into this, and a lot of people get into this because they're passionate about what they do. They love what they do. What are I want to ask each of you kind of like a favorite memory that you have worked with in the past that really just said, yes, this is why I do what I do. And we can start with Corey.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I've encountered probably thousands of seniors at this point, and one that really sticks out early on for me was a gentleman who I took care of as a QMAP. So the QMAP just gives the medications essentially and provides any care, so this was early on when I kind of got into healthcare. And this guy, he always saved me like Rolling Stone magazines and things like that, different artists. Like
Good man.
like I have a Led Zeppelin one that it's, I still have it. And but the cool thing was, what I always think of with him was he was born in July. I was born in July, so we were both Cancers. And he was super into minerals and all that good stuff. And he gave me a ruby, like a little, because that's our birthstone, a little tiny ruby, and I still have it too. So that was really special. I've met people that have written books. I've met tons of people that have served our country, and this war or the other, and those stories are often heartbreaking, but also inspiring. That somebody's willing to go out there and provide that necessary service for our country, and just that's come a long ways, obviously, but I mean the people we've encountered, that had like Agent Orange exposure and things like that, it's just like, whoa, you were 18 years old going over here inhaling poison for a job. That's crazy. So I mean our generation's kind of gotten a little soft, probably more than a little compared to the previous generation.
I'd agree with that.
So I mean, just kind of learning that overall like grit of those who came before us has kind of been special, just as an overall, I guess, experience for me. Yeah.
Diana, do you have something that kind of sticks out?
I do. And Michelle and Corey will probably remember this. I got a phone call from a couple, and they said, we need to move my mother out. She's in our living room in a bed, a hospital bed, and she's on hospice. But we've got to get her out of our house. So I said, oh, okay. So went over to their home for a home visit and assessed the whole environment. And these were people who were living in a well-to-do neighborhood. The house was huge, and here was this woman on the first floor of the house. They had tons of bedrooms upstairs, right in the middle of their dining room. So that's where they kept her. She was crawled up in a fetal position, and I came back, and at that time, Michelle was our executive director at the community I was working in, and I said, Michelle, she's on hospice. She doesn't talk. She's in a fetal position. But, we've got to get her out of that house. We've got to move her. Can we move her here? We'll have hospice come in also and just see what we can do with her. So, yes, we moved her in, and with that change of environment, she got off of hospice. She started to flower. We, just with good, nutritious meals, encouraging her little by little at her pace to nurture her, to get her to thrive. And I'm not kidding you, within 6 months easily, she was out and about in her wheelchair. She had a custom-made little pink wheelchair. No,
pink,
seriously. Yeah. And she flourished. She just started getting involved in all the activities, happy face, the whole bit. She would check on us in our offices and make sure we were going home. We weren't going to work, till late at night. And she lived with us for a couple of years. And dementia set in, and she did pass away. But that was a success story, and it brought us such joy to have someone come in that was broken, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then here she thrived. She started to thrive, and she enjoyed living in our community, socializing, attending activities, and flourishing. So that
And
is...
she had a great time then too, being able to do that. And it's funny how you mention activity. I was in the financial world for many, many years. And so I saw people retire, and I knew the ones that kept active and the ones that didn't. Yeah. And the ones that didn't, just, it was like downhill. So activity is huge for it. And that's something that you guys really look into with these communities.
Well, it's like
yes.
physical and mental activity.
Yes.
It's you got to have that balance of both, and especially when you have cognitive decline. I mean, and if you're in a wheelchair and things like that, you're not getting up and like doing the Rockettes and like kicking and things like that. But I mean, you can sit in a chair and you can throw a beach ball back and forth or whatever.
Right.
I've seen this one was really, I was on a tour and walked in, and all you hear is like, like you're walking into some like death metal concert, and it's just a bunch of people with beach balls in their laps, just hitting it with drumsticks like that, and it was just hilarious, because obviously something like that, you're kind of counting the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and you're got that physical. So it's like things like that are just like perfect, for elderly, if you can incorporate both. And that is a big thing to look for, resources to things. There are some communities out there that they're not going to offer you transportation. Your activity is going to be sitting in front of a TV watching whatever movie that you probably like, what's going on here?
Game Show Network.
Yeah, well, that would probably
That's
be
my
better.
favorite.
Yeah, honestly. So
Westerns.
Western.
They're
Yeah,
really
oh, yeah.
big on Westerns.
yeah. So.
Michelle, what's one of your stories that kind of sticks out from that really just brings that passion of what you do?
It's tough because over the years, I mean, like I said, I started this straight out of high school. So straight out of high school, you're looking for a purpose then, and definitely found it. But there's been so many moments over the years that you just, you always want to walk away with your cup being filled, not drained. And, sometimes with healthcare, it's definitely draining. But then you have to seek those moments of, well, what was my high point? And I think all of it is just, a stranger comes to you with a need that needs to be met. We don't know what that need's going to be, what it is at the time. And, oftentimes you're trying to figure things out. And when you're not trying to figure things out, then you're missing the obvious. And some of these folks are, I always had to put myself in their shoes and think, okay, if I woke up without a purpose, we all want to wake up every day and be like, the to-do list, it's minimal today. Yes, I'm going to go play.
Right.
Some of these folks wake up and, if they're getting their showers, their meals, everything is taken care of for them, every beckoning need. What's the purpose? What did I wake up for? So when you go in and you take care of these folks, whatever their need happens to be, you meet their purpose. So right away, it's an individual that you have been blessed with the experience to get to learn their history and embrace that history and bring some of that into now your history. It helps mold you. But just to have that person, to get that pleasure to meet them and them hold your hand and look at you and say, I love you. You're my friend. There's not enough words for that. I mean, the endearment that you get from people that they're strangers.
Right.
And immediately your grandparent, your best friend, the somebody that just filled your cup 100% that day. That's when you give back, and that's when it feels good.
Right. Just those moments that I definitely get that.
I've got one lady that still sits in the middle of my living room that was like an adopted grandparent to both of us. And she, every day, I watch your car. I know where it's parked. It's safe. It's good. Okay. I knew she'd having a bad day if she couldn't tell me where I parked.
Right.
So it's just those different pieces that
Yeah.
you start to identify that this is normal for them and learn to pay attention to them.
And you mentioned also, challenges with ever-changing healthcare and everything like that. What are some of the obstacles that you guys run into with what you do?
Healthcare has changed so much, I would say, primarily over the last 5 years. And the burnout is still real that happens. So you work those relationships, even the communities. You go into a community, you find a community that's humming and it is the best. You would put your own grandparent there. Then the next thing you know, everybody at that community has left. So then immediately,
So a lot of turnaround.
tons and tons of turnover in the industry, and I would say that that's the hardest and the number one that seniors complain about, because those become their friends.
Right.
So immediately they wake up and all their friends are gone. The people that they trust are gone. So turnover, I would say, is probably the biggest struggle and the most difficult thing to get people to understand and accept, yet also making sure that it doesn't happen too much, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
it's,
it definitely does.
it's people.
Well, it's kind of like being in the hospital too. We were recently in the hospital for our vice president, and he got so frustrated when, he's working with one nurse for like 12 hours. Then another one comes in,
yeah.
and it's like,
You
all
start
right,
over.
you start
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, none of us, like even when we go to the doctor, the nurse comes in, you tell the nurse why you're there.
Yeah.
And then the doctor comes in, well, why are you here? Okay, let me start over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think too, just talking about doctors and things like that, specifically what is I've found difficult oftentimes when moving somebody in is getting doctor's orders, and getting them correct, because, it blew my mind as an administrator that doctors, there's not some like universal method that they can all just follow for this, because these communities, they need to know what kind of medications you're on. They're administering them. Essentially, when your doctor signs off on that, that's giving that community permission to give you those medications. So if that is inaccurate, or you're missing, I love people will be on 100 vitamins and their doctor knows nothing about that, and then they go to a community and it's like, why aren't they getting this and this, and so another benefit to us is we help to facilitate that entire process. So we'll actually, I've driven to the doctor's office. I need this and I need it this way, because otherwise this person's not moving in tomorrow, and then that's a safety concern and so on and so forth. So I'd say that's like a specifically unique kind of challenge that we face, is doctors not understanding the importance of those physician's orders and history and physicals, and that's oftentimes not the doctor. That could be the patient hasn't been to the doctor in 5 years, and the doctor's like, well, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, that's, again, a part of that comprehensive piece is not only assessing like what your needs are, but it's facilitating getting those needs met. It's not just like, oh, we've identified and, that's that. It's like, okay, we've identified and here's actionable, items that we can take to move this forward.
And even on top of all the medical needs, the personality wise, what type of place would you guys like? So you can definitely cover all the medical needs, but if they're not stimulated in their personal life then it's definitely not going to help that well.
Yeah. 100%, yeah.
I know you wanted to give a couple shout outs. Spaceman Guitars, right? Right when I read that, I'm like, well, yeah, radio station.
It's kind of why I figured them. They're kind of perfect for this. So it's actually my wife, fiance, she's still my fiance, but my wife. It's her uncle and her aunt's store there, and it's right off of Colfax and Kipling. And so essentially, they do a lot of repairs for musical instruments, like. I think that's probably their bread and butter, but also they sell records, they sell musical equipment, things like that. So really cool people, definitely worth checking out. I mean, better than going to like big box store, support local when you can. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were recently on a podcast, I believe, Health or High Water.
That's correct.
I like the name of that,
Yeah,
actually.
right. Isn't it? It's such a good name, and they're funny. They told me, they're like, there was already a podcast named that, and they're like, when they started this, they're like, we're just gonna outperform them and just kind of push them down. So definitely a cool name, and those guys, Brett and Tripp over there, they actually own a gym. It's like Physical Therapy Ascend Peak Performance, I believe is the full name. And so the podcast is just one facet of that. But yeah, I mean, they have all kinds of people on, and they're just a good group of guys, you know, so kind of like a good introduction into this whole radio digital realm for us. So
Well, and what you guys do in the community is just great. I mean, you guys should be on almost every podcast out there in my mind. Just especially, you see these homes popping up all over the place. And Michelle and Diana, I mean, when you guys say you do Colorado, I mean, this is the entire state of Colorado that you guys will help find out good placements for people?
Yeah, Colorado Springs all the way up to Fort Collins.
Wow.
And there's lots of communities, lots of choices. Each community has their own culture, their own design, and, so it's really good to have all those options because we as individuals are unique. And we have, our desires too, besides our needs. And we have to take that into consideration also, besides budget, location, things like that. So the other thing I want to mention is we do an educational presentation. We will do those presentations to organizations, companies, employees, and with real estate agents, hospice organizations, home care organizations, and we educate them on senior living. The different levels. What's the difference between, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care? A lot of people just don't know.
They just know assisted living. That's all I've
That's
ever known.
it. And
or nursing
long-term
home,
care,
you
yeah.
know, the nursing home.
And,
That's
and the older generation, they don't know anything about assisted living.
Right.
They just remember that their grandparents and parents stayed at home till they had to go to the home, the nursing home, with the white walls, the green painted bars, and they were there to die. But these people, they're the most resistant because they are not aware that there's a step from independent living to assisted living or independent living with services coming in. And I would say the children of those parents have the most resistance. The parents really dig their heels in the ground. I'm not going to any place. I'm going to die at home. And because they don't have any information about an assisted living community where you go to thrive. The studies show socialization and nutrition are the two most important factors for someone to have a healthy, happy, long life.
Right.
So it's an education for the public.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to get into the education piece a little bit too, because, you guys, you get back to the communities. You mentioned the Dementia 101 class and support group. Getting into a little bit of these educational programs that you just mentioned where you do help the people. And then I have another question where what advice would you give to the kid of somebody whose parent might be getting into that age of eventually? And what advice would you give to parents about that? Let's start with you, Michelle.
It's almost the same with every one of them because we go into the homes and neither party's happy. They're doing what they feel they're obligated to do, a duty as a child, or the duty of the spouse, or whatever that looks like. So right away we start having those conversations of it'll feel so much nicer when you become the daughter when you go back to being the son instead of when you become the caregiver. Because let's face it, none of us were designed to take care of our parents. Our parents took care of us. So right there, you do that role reversal flip.
And none of us are specialists either.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So you immediately, you're thrown into a position where you lose your confidant. We all ran to our parents for advice. Something went wrong. Mom, Dad, how do I do this? What did I do wrong? How did I do it right? And then immediately, now you have to be that higher authority over the person that was your higher authority your entire life. So that role reversal is very, very difficult. And it becomes a push-pull. I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to do that. And then the adult child that immediately kind of lashes back too sometimes. Well, this is what you're going to get because that's what we got growing up, right?
Right. Exactly.
You're going to eat it whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Just
You
eat
raised
it.
me. Now it's time for me to raise you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's to get them to see that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Once they are adjusted, once they have friends, guess what? You're not going to get the 50 phone calls of how do I use the microwave again? Mm-hmm. Why? Because they're stimulated.
Right.
We get those phone calls because they're bored.
Gotcha. And Diana, what advice would you give the parent?
Yeah, so that they can have a good relationship with their children and grandchildren, their loved ones. Leave the dirty work to us. Just enjoy your loved ones. These are memories in the making. You don't want to be constantly going through this push-pull situation, as Michelle mentioned, with your son or daughter or your grandchild or whatever. And then once again, getting back to that educational piece,
Right.
that they're not going, that the train isn't at the last stop. You've got a few more stops to go before you get to the end of the line.
Conductor.
Whatever your destination is.
Exactly. It's amazing that you said dementia is the number one out there. I was watching a documentary a little while ago about music and dementia. It really fascinated me because there were older people that didn't know the names of their family, didn't know the names of even their spouse or anything like that. Yeah. But when they put on headphones, they knew the lyrics. Mm-hmm. They knew the songs, and it really fascinated me.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
Muscle memory.
I didn't see that documentary, but I do remember this from years past of and then actually seeing it. I mean, they do put on different, music and memory cares and things like that, and you'll see these people that, can't respond to you in a day-to-day conversation, but then, you throw on, some whatever, and,
Led Zeppelin,
Beatles,
Music,
Beatles,
Chuck Berry,
yeah. I was gonna say, but I can't remember her name. Patsy Cline. I was gonna
say
say
that.
So I literally, in John Denver, like I always joke, like, what is the Country Roads? How
Take Me Home.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's not my favorite song, but that's gonna be the song I remember till I die because like I just heard it so many times over the years. But yeah,
Right.
it's amazing. Like music, it affects your your brain waves and essentially with dementia, you kind of have like Swiss cheese is literally what your brain starts to look like. There's physical holes in your brain, and so your synapses and whatever aren't firing. They're not completing that entire you basically a spark of electricity. You can't go from one end to the other because the wire's frayed in the middle. So but music, it buries itself deep and it doesn't let go. So it's super interesting.
It definitely does, and I have a question for all of you based on that. But first, everybody who's listening here, we've had their information. If you're watching this on our social media platforms, all their information has been scrolling on the bottom, completely free of charge. Give them a call, talk to them. It's all about education, and I love that piece that you really want people to be educated about this, and you want to take your specialties in your education and make sure that they find a place that is suitable and completely free. I love it. So based off of that conversation though, real quick, all right, what albums if you were in that place, would stick out in your mind? Or what artist would stick out in your mind? Who would you be singing along to? Who's
We're gonna let
first?
Corey go first.
Tough. Yeah. I love me some Pink Floyd. We were talking about that earlier. So when I had thought about which albums it would be, kind of like a cheating kind of album would be A Foot in the Door, because that's their greatest hits album. And I mean, it starts with Hey You. So it's like from the second you turn that album on, you're kind of just boom, you're sucked in. Love me some Floyd. I'd have to say Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is a huge album for me. I've always loved that album. And let me get a little heavy. I'm going to say In Flames. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but I love me some In Flames.
Good
and
one.
I the Mask specifically is my favorite In Flames album. So
What about you, Diana?
So my taste is pretty eclectic. So I'm a Pandora shuffle person. But I do enjoy orchestration. So I love Phantom of the Opera. I love the orchestration from there.
It's beautiful music.
It is. It is. It makes me happy. I love the group Casting Crowns, Christian singing. I think I could listen to Patsy Cline all day long, too. Yeah.
All right, Michelle.
I'm really gonna mess
well,
this
you
up.
grew up in the 80s. So,
I
mean,
did.
Like, you have
I
like
was
the
an
pick of the
80s
litter,
baby, so it's
essentially.
Our vice president is all 80s.
yeah. It's music to me is what is my mood. So it can be anywhere. Nitty gritty. What is it?
Nitty gritty dirt
band.
I,
Yeah.
if my mood is that, I will turn that up quite loud. Pat Benatar, still love her.
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne, still absolutely one of my favorites.
Ah.
Especially if I'm feeling a little ornery at that point, that gets turned real loud. Exercise, love to do Ozzy. Led Zeppelin's one that if more of a mellow mood for me. So my music very much will meet my personality at that given
Yeah.
moment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of like me too. I could be listening to some folky stuff, but if I'm
Yeah.
mad, put in some Rage Against the Machine. Or something.
Exactly. It's
So, yeah.
totally.
Hey, I
it's
just saw them too.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Nelly Furtado. I mean, the old
Yeah.
80s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I think I'm feeling spicy, then, but I'm all over the place. I don't have a specific genre.
Yeah.
Nice. No, I like
Yeah.
it. And perfect for our radio station here too, because we play everything. Your website, aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com. For those of you listening on the radio station, aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com also has their phone number there, 720-677-5580. You have, I'm going to say it, a plethora of information and links on this website. For people that want to check you out, want to see what you're doing, maybe thinking long term, like, hey, I might need something like this in 5 years, or my parent might. How should they get started?
Give us a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We try to do a lot of social media stuff, Facebook and Instagram a little bit here and there, LinkedIn, things like that. I'd say our big one is Facebook that we post on pretty often, but we do try to make the website pretty user friendly and obviously we're going to optimize that a little bit further, but just give us a call, shoot us an email. Our number rings to all of our phones, and then we're just the type where you'll probably just get our cell phone number after that, and then you can just go, directly communicate with us, texts, whatever, whatever's more convenient for you. So admin@aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com. That's a good email that reaches all of us. Obviously our website, aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com, and phone number is also good. Yeah.
Perfect. And that is the best phone number, the 720-677-5580.
Yes.
Right there. Absolutely awesome. Thank you guys for coming on. And we only have a couple of minutes left, but I did want each of you to just kind of, say one, why you love doing this, and why should people contact you. What is your big thing, Michelle? You've been doing this since high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you must love what you do.
I do. Yeah. I think for me, bringing it back, getting out of working for somebody and being just community focused. I was able to get out, and now I get to promote all of. I mean, there's over 700 communities in this state alone. That's just
Wow.
That's just for assisted living. So for me, I had a little bit of a knowledge deficit working for somebody for so many years. So to get out and see how much we have changed, how many more things we're starting to offer, I very much have enjoyed, that new aspect. But the biggest thing is just educating people. I love teaching and getting people to understand that most times the disagreement is a knowledge deficit. That's all it is.
Right.
And then supporting somebody where they're at and getting to see that end result when finally that smile is there and they light up and they're like, oh, this is home. It's really neat to watch those connections unfold.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Diana?
I'm a newcomer to the senior living industry compared to both of them. This is my third and my last career. And if you had told me 30 years ago you saw in a crystal ball that I was going to be working with seniors, back then I was an accountant for an oil and gas company, I would
Wow.
have said, "You're crazy." I don't have anything to do with old people. I can't relate to them, whatever. Well, lo and behold, my parents started aging and they moved out of the house they lived in for 60 years. And I had no say in where they went. So I was at a state, and my siblings decided with them they were going to move into this continuum care community, which is, they've got every level of care there. And maybe I'd go visit mom and dad 4 or 5 times a year. And that's when I was exposed to other elderly people. And I felt bad for them because I saw a lot of things that I thought the community could do a better job at. So I started thinking about, hey, I want to get in that business and see what it's like. All of a sudden, these old people really touched my heart. That combined with the fact that I was not able to be there with my parents as often as I would have liked, really just made me want to learn more and more about it. And for me, it has really filled a void in my heart. I look at, these, the seniors, and I go, that could be my mom or my dad, that I was not able to really help them make a decision, but I can do it now. So I'm kind of making up for that lost emotional connection
Right.
that I didn't have with them, but I can have it with the parents of people our ages. Yeah.
Corey, last words?
Yeah. Oh, hey. Last words. Cool. For me, I started at a very young age because my mom's a nurse, and I used to go along with her doing home health, and she did hospice for a little bit. So I, from a very young age, was kind of exposed to seniors and the good and the bad. And then, I kind of hung around communities as a kid and, ate their little mini ice cream packs and things like that. And, when I was old enough to start working with them, that was really the first thing I did. And, the stories and the people and their effect on me and my life is just been something that won't ever forget. So, I'd say, you asked also, like, why would somebody want to choose us? And I think, obviously, like, our experience, we've kind of gone over that. You know, the compassion for seniors is definitely there, and you know, we just we want to do right by our people and go above and beyond for them. So getting back to how we got the name, you know, it's more so about how we provide our service than anything else. So hopefully those are good enough last words for me.
Well, yeah, no, and it's a wonderful name, and you guys definitely do that. And I love the fact that there's no charge for it, and it's really all about educating people, making sure they know what they're getting into, making sure that they're in the right spot.
Yes.
So thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Definitely look at their website, aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com. You can find them all over social media as well. Even email them directly, admin@aboveandbeyondseniorliving.com, 720-677-5580. This interview will be on our social media platforms for another month, and so it's really easy to just go back. If you were listening in towards the end and you wanted to rewatch it, feel free to do that. It's also on our YouTube page forever. So Corey, Michelle, Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
This has been an interview with K4CO Radio. Stay tuned for your afternoon mix of music all the way until 5 p.m. And thank you again for coming in, guys.
Thanks. Take care,
Appreciate it.
everybody. Thanks.